Saturday night is probably not the best night to go for a run on that route. That was the first thing that I said to my wife after I returned from an evening run. I felt a little cooped up during the day and thought that a brief run outside would help me feel a bit better. What I didn't take into account was the day of the week nor the time of that day. When it's night, I will run through an area where there's enough light to do safely, and it just so happens that this particular route takes me past the local tavern. As I approached the tavern this night, I noticed an older woman leaving it and walking the same direction that I was headed, and she was noticeably kind of swaying as she went. I gave her a wide berth as I passed on the footpath and then stopped to let a car out of the car park in front of me before jogging off again. I have new headphones. I really like them. They've got noise cancellation. It's awesome. And I'm loving that, but I could hear someone above the noise cancellation as I was running, and I thought it was coming from the car that was just pulled out in front of me, but as that got further away, the noise stayed with me, and I started to look around and noticed that the woman behind me who was swaying was now chasing after me, screaming. I thought she may be in trouble, so I stopped to see what was wrong, and she said, "I'm not going to let you walk past my complex. I am barring you from walking past my complex." And she yelled as she walked past me in an attempt to block my path, continuing her barrage, complete with excess saliva. "It's a footpath," I said. "I'm just going for a run." But it was no use. She would have none of it and was committed to stopping me in my tracks. Realizing that it was no use to engage, I said, "I'm going now," and slipped past her on my way and continued jogging, and the noise cancellation covered up the screams and yells as I left her behind. My path was a loop, and it brought me back around to that exact same spot a few minutes later, and I was a little wary and a tiny bit jumpy when I came back. But she was nowhere to be seen. Hopefully she made it safely back to her complex, maybe watching me with cautious eyes, maybe passed out from consuming too much of whatever she had. Regardless, the following day, it was a story to tell. I was talking to a friend about it, and my 7-year-old listened in and asked a few questions. Now, the patience that I have for my 7-year-old's questions can be a little thin, but still we had a conversation. And he asked me, he said, "What did she want from you, Daddy?" And I replied, "Well, she wanted me to stay away from her home, even though I was on the footpath where everyone is allowed to be." And then he asked, "Why did she do that, Daddy?" And I said, "Well, I think maybe she had too much alcohol to drink and thought that I was somebody else." And then my 7-year-old thought and said, "Maybe something happened to her." And there it was. The most profound, generous and thoughtful response I had heard for a while, and most likely true. I don't know the trauma or pain that this woman had experienced. I don't know what life had dished up to her, but it is likely that there was something troubling that was going on for her in that moment. I hope that my 7-year-old will take that mentality with him for the rest of his life, to look past people's behaviour and see the hurt that is motivating that behaviour, because really, everyone has had something happen to them, and being able to recognise that, whilst doesn't excuse how people behave, if we try and understand it even a little bit, then that is a great act of generosity. It's easy to judge. It is generous to seek to understand.